Yo, yo, what's up, y'all? Jamel Redemption here. RBMDRT is the channel. Repairing broken men by doing righteous things. Like and subscribe, man. If you're not a subscriber to the channel, subscribe. If you haven't liked this video yet, what are you waiting for? And, this episode is about this is a part two of a video I did some months ago. This is part two of this series. These are the things that create broken men. Right? In the spirit of what RBMDRT stands for, it comes from the Frederick Douglass quote. It is easier to build strong children. Well, he said boys. He said it is easier to build strong boys than it is to repair broken men. And that's a quote that I read in books and seen. This before social media, man. I read that in a book before there was probably any kind of social media. So I definitely didn't first see it on a meme. So it's been sitting with me for years. Um, when I used to, when I first became a DJ some years back, I uh, I was thinking of a DJ name, and the name that I came up with was DJ Redemption. So I always thought about that, like can a can a broken man be repaired? Because he left that he left that out the equation. He says then to repair broken men. So he kind of uh, insinuates that broken men can be repaired. It's just hard. It's harder to do that than to just build a strong boy in the first place. So, you know, in the air of that phrase, I came up with a series of episodes of the things, the top things that create broken men. And in the first part of that series, I talked about how the single black mother is the probably the the main source of these broken men you see in society these days. It's more often that you find uh, broken men come from single mothers. Like they fill up the prisons. They make up for the most cases of suicide. They make up for the most, you know, drug addicts or whatever. And it's not a I don't intend to uh shame black women for that. Black men are responsible for that. They're equally responsible for the single mother dynamic. So I'm not trying to shame black women. I'm telling her what it is. Like, without a father, without a man present, uh, the family is more likely to be in poverty. The family is more likely to suffer from uh, discrimination, and you take away the head, you destroy the body. That's in anything. And if you one of those people who don't subscribe to patriar- patriarchy, and you think that the woman is the head, okay, look at it like that. If she the head, what's wrong with the black family, with the single mothers? And you can also say, you know, well, I don't care what you say, because the man is the head of the family, man. That's how it been. And before we saw the destruction of the black family, and it's just an actual fact. You take away the head, you destroy the body. That's in nature. That's in that's just a universal law. But anyway, um, in that first part of the series, I described how the top thing that creates broken men is single black mothers. For black men, that is. Probably for white men too. Just any man, any broken man. So it's like today I want to talk about the second top thing that creates broken men. That 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 it starts in boyhood. Because in order to be a broken man, you must once have been uh, a boy full of potential and who was broken by something or some things. Well, today I want to tell you that the second most detrimental thing to a boy and the most harmful thing that could be, the thing that creates a broken man is nutrition. It's like in my video about the single black mother being the main thing, the top thing that creates broken men. I didn't touch it. I slightly touched on this topic. I talked about how when I was a little boy, I used to live with my aunt and my uncle, and my mother lived with them too. So all us lived under the same roof. And when I was like 8 or 9, they had a meeting to see whether or not I stayed with my aunt and my uncle or went with my mom when she moved out. So as a young kid, I knew that it would have been better off for me if I stayed with my aunt and my uncle. But because I had that childlike loyalty to my mother and that childlike yearning and for her to nurture me, I chose to go with her. And even as a young child, I knew that probably was a mistake. But, even though I stand here today proclaiming myself to be a man who's trying to repair himself, there's some things I wouldn't change in life. Maybe I had to go that route. But anyway, sorry, I started having emotional memories about that time. Because that was a very quintessential fork in the road for me. A very pivotal one. And, it all works out for the best. Because I wouldn't be here to come with this testimonial if it wasn't for that. But anyway, moving with my mother, at 8, 9, when we living by ourselves, I remember it was a drastic change to my nutrition. Living with my aunt and my uncle, my aunt, she was a nurse. You feel me? She was a registered nurse, right? So she was very health conscious. She was in the healthcare field, And my uncle, he was a painter. He was a painter by trade. He painted houses and whatnot. I actually went out on some vocations with him. My uncle was very, very stern. So that was like one of the reasons I chose to go with my mom. But anyway, both my uncle and my aunt, they used to juice fruits. You feel me? Like, and this is like 1993. So this is when, those TV commercials, those infomercials, they're trying to sell you the juices and things of that nature. My uncle and my aunt had one of them. My uncle, he comes from brothers who they all were farmers. You know what I mean? They all grew up. The house that we were living in was farmland that was passed down from my ancestors. So when I was young, there was pigs back there. There was agriculture being grown on our land. I could go get water out of a well. We had chickens. You know what I mean? There was a lot of going on as far as you know a farming a farm type setting. So my uncle, although my aunt was a nurse, I'm not saying my uncle wasn't health conscious too, because he was a painter. He grew up, eating off the land. Uh, so I would get fresh vegetation. My uncle's brother, God bless his soul, he was a master horticulturer, like a master. He learned under Mr. Richardson. Mr. Richardson is a very famous and prolific uh, horticulture, agriculture person, whatever have you. And in the Low Country, the Charleston area, he was the first black man on James Island to have a greenhouse. You see what I'm saying? He taught science to kids in school. So uh, having those type of uncles, I was always exposed to you know the vegetation and the farming and all that. So like when I was living with my aunt and my uncle, when me and my mom was living with my aunt and my uncle, we lived in that house for many years because that's our quote unquote family house. Well, it ain't no more because my my rich aunt came back down here from her tenure in New York City, came back down south and you know what I mean. My aunt and my uncle moved out, and now she and one of my other aunts, running the house or whatever. But it's still a family house. There's a little shade to my rich aunt, but anyway, um, I remember living in that house. My aunt would cook a lot. My uncle would cook a lot. My aunt, my uncle's wife, she would, you know, she would educate me on food, on health and nutrition, and she would make sure that I eat a variety of fruits and vegetables. You know what I mean? She would make sure that I get the proper vitamins. Like my mom's didn't care about none of that. You feel me? My mom's ain't care about none of that. So, and she ain't had nobody. She didn't have a man. That's what I'm saying. That single mother thing is an issue. Like my uncle and my aunt, though they had no children, they would. If they had a child, that child would have been exposed to not only they were evangelists, you know. Because of them, I have a lot of my spirituality. My aunt, she used to, read the Bible with me, study with me, tell me about Christianity. Because of her, I have a very close relationship with the church. Yes, my mother took me to church, but my aunt, she was really like my first teacher in the Bible. She taught me the Bible. Doris Williams, my uncle's wife, she taught me the Bible. But living with them, I was exposed to nutrition. Nutrition was advertised heavily amongst them. But my mom's, you know, she didn't really care about instilling those nutritional values in me. You know what I mean? She made sure I eat, but it didn't really matter to her what I ate as long as I ate. You feel me? Opposed to with my aunt and my uncle, especially my aunt, she cared about what I eat. She cared how that nutrition would, go in me. You know what I mean? What it would do to build a strong boy. But I digress on my story. Uh, since I'm talking about how nutrition, but I might get back. You know what I mean? I might throw examples of my life in this, but nutrition plays a very major part on building a strong boy. Boys are growing, you know, or he eating up everything in the house. Well, if everything in the house is crap, that boy is gonna be, you know, becoming broken by eating all that crap. You know what I mean? If there's a multitude of fruits, if there's a multitude of vegetables, if there's a multitude of oats and nuts and berries, and if there's a multitude of almond milk and non-dairy milk and non-dairy, if there's a multitude of things like that, and a growing boy is around that, he has no choice but to consume all of that because a boy's gonna grow. He need a lot of energy to go be a boy. So it's like, I also this is crazy. This is real crazy, but this is true. I I didn't become a chubby little boy. I never thought about this. Wow. That's the important thing about RBMDRT, man. It's like therapy for real, because I be learning stuff, be realizing stuff about myself that I didn't even know. So I just want to pat myself on the back for being the founder, creator of RBMDRT, because I ain't doing this for nothing. You feel me? But anyway, and that's crazy, man. I ain't even shouldn't be that proud of myself because I ain't never thought about it like this. But hey, perfect time for everything. But man, from the time I've been a little boy and all my little boy life, I was always around that house, around that family house. You know what I mean? I was in that house a lot. I was in either that house or my other side of my grandfather's parents' house. So I old people churn. You feel me? So it's like when I was young, I was always around those older folks who was feeding me the vegetation. I was on a place called James Island. So even when as a child, I was bouncing around these houses. Like my mom was still young. She used to go out on the weekend and whatnot with the whoop. So I was around real old black people, old gullah black people too. I couldn't even understand half the stuff they were saying. Not because they was old, it's because they spoke a different language. They didn't speak the language I was learning in school. You feel me? They spoke straight gullah. But anyway, until me and my mom moved away from, my elders in my family, I was a slim, slender, little boy. I was slim and slender. I was slim and trim like a bicycle rim. I'm trying to tell you, I got pictures. But when we moved to West Ashley, when we moved from James Island to West Ashley when I was 8 or 9, I was like fourth grade going to fifth grade. So I was like 8 going on 9, I was like 8 going on 9. We'll just say 9 because I was 9 when we got there. All right. That's when I started getting chubby. I started getting chubby around that time. Living with my mom, she fed me a lot of fast food. She was busy. She was a teacher. So I remember after school, after I got out of school, a lot of my friends, their mothers might have cooked them something, or their mothers might have cooked them something. If they had a daddy, their daddy might have cooked them something. They was eating a lot of food off a stove. I remember. I was there. I remember going to my friend's house. They had food off a stove. Getting from school. I get home from school. My mom's got to, do schoolwork or she might still be at school doing a meeting or something. So by the time she sees me, her way of feeding me, because she busy, is just rushing quote unquote fast food. You see what I'm saying? So she not knowing that because she's so busy and she gotta rush to do this and that, she still got a child, and she still gotta make sure that I'm properly receiving the adequate nutrition. But because she's so busy, she forgetting that. She just want to make sure I eat. She don't care what I eat. Wow. So I remember, man, living with my mom's. Like when I got off away from James Island, I started eating way more fast food. I'm 9 years old cause like before, my whole life I've been in a quote unquote single parent household because my mom was single that whole time. But I ain't never really thought about it like this, man. But I'm gonna talk about it. Um, when when I was young, real little, from uh, being a toddler or whatever, like in a pre-adolescent, like the ages from like 3 till 8, I was on James Island, right? So on James Island, my mom's working, but after school, I'm going to my family's house. My older family members, and they eating food off a stove. They feeding me off a stove. I always eating off a stove. Or one of my aunts or something, they making me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Something, something nutritional. Something of real substance, right? I remember my grandparents, my great grandparents, should I say, my great grandparents' house on my grandfather's side. Um, I was in that house a lot as a pre-adolescent, and they had chickens in the yard too. They had a farm in the yard too. So we had like baked trash cans full of, you know, snap peas and rice and organic stuff, corn. We had all of that. So I'm eating food off the stove. I'm eating food off the land all the time. It wasn't until I went with my mother away from that type of life and really was in a single parent household because I was living with her at this time. I went from living with my aunt and my uncle in the family house and being around my great grand aunts and great grand uncles. You know what I mean? So, damn, I ain't never thought about it. That's when, and I always thought about like, what I always knew. I got chubby around that 8 and 9 year old summer because I remember I used to could do backflips without like having to touch the ground before I did the backflips. Like I could just do a backflip, like just standing up and hit a backflip. Like 7 and 8 years old, I'm hitting backflips. I'm slim and trim. You know what I mean? I'm hitting backflips like nothing, right? But it was when I remember that summer I went to summer camp. That summer at St. James Presbyterian Church, and I remember I was getting fat that year. But whole time I'm thinking it's the free lunch. Like I remember, I thought about this like years, probably about 15 years old. I thought, why I got fat that summer? I said, man, it was that free lunch. Nah, it wasn't the free lunch, man. The free lunch had good stuff in it. Nah, it was a nutritionally valued little thing. They had a fruit. You could get a fruit cup. Might be an apple, orange, or it might be a fruit cup. You getting a full course little meal. You getting a little sandwich. I used to like them turkey sandwiches. They get a little ketchup, mayonnaise, pack a little mustard, man. Might get the applesauce, bro. You might get applesauce in the cup. You know what I mean? Don't let them get fancy. They had the little triangular freeze, the little freezy thing, the little sweet, and you rip it open, and You know, a little ice thing. Might be a grape one. It might be that fruit punch one. You know, I thought the free lunch that got me fat that year. Because I remember, that's something I went from doing backflips like that to I couldn't do a backflip no more. I remember my cousins start teasing me. Hey, you getting fat, man. You know? And a lot of people probably thought it was just little boys. You know, a lot of people be dope boys, but I ain't never been a fat little boy. You see what I'm saying? I wasn't no dope boy. You feel me? But at around 1993, 94, I started becoming a little pudgy little boy. Because I was staying with my mother and she was feeding me a lot of fast food. And the area that we moved in, you know, it's a town called West Ashley. We moved from James Island to West Ashley. So like James Island got a few restaurants and whatnot. And then back then they had a Chinese buffet or whatnot. You know, I always loved Chinese buffet. I still love Chinese buffets to this day. But James Island didn't have a Ryan's. You know, Ryan's buffet. I remember my mom's would probably take me to Ryan's, you know, at least. We lived in the area of Ryan's. She'd take me to Ryan's, like, you know, at least twice a month, 3 times, more than we was going. I remember her feeding me Wendy's. Like, Wendy's was, shit, we ate Wendy's all the freaking time. It was Wendy's, it was Taco Bell, it was Ryan's, it was all this fat. I remember my mother feeding me fast food more than off the stove. That's the key. I remember going from eating food off the stove to eating food out of a fast food bag. And that's how I went from being a little slim, athletic built little boy to a little chubby, little fat little boy with a sleeping problem. Because I remember that's when I really started to develop a sleep apnea, to the point to where they started telling my mother that I needed sleeping medicines. You know what I mean? And that opened up a whole nother, that's going to be part 3. Nutrition, I'm going to talk about then chemicals and how drugs is the main thing that, you know, all that. That's part 3. Drugs and chemicals going to be what creates broken men. Okay. Anyway, back to part 2, nutrition. So, I start getting chubby. You know, I can't do backflips no more. I'm not as fast as I used to be. You know, I'm starting to get a little bit insecure about the weight. So by the time I'm 11, I'm fat, and food is now, I'm addicted to it. I'm addicted to junk food at this point. I'm no longer in a town where there's fresh fruits and where we came from on James Island. I can go, you know, I can go pick up a pecan off the ground. I love pecans. I can get some pecans. I can go to Miss Ora yard and get some plum off the tree. I can go to Miss Mag yard and get a whole pear off a tree. You feel me? I could go to my uncle. He got some sugar cane for me. You feel me? I went from being around all these fresh fruits, vegetables, and getting food cooked on the stove to living with this lady who feeding me fast food 3, 4, 5 times a week. So now I got an addiction to this junk food. This junk food is causing me to have sleep apnea. Yeah, it's causing me to have bipolar depression because it's messing with the chemical balance in my mind. You feel me? So, like, all these nutritional, because I'm not getting good nutrition as this young boy, as this young adolescent boy, I'm acting out. I'm acting out because I ain't got no daddy. But I'm acting out because the sugars. I remember, and it ain't just me. We used to put Kool-Aid, and I ain't talking about Kool-Aid after you done mix it with water and sugar. We used to get sugar in a bag, open a pack or two of Kool-Aid, pour it in that bag of sugar. Little sugar bomb bag. You dipping in that bag, nigga. Yeah. Before, and that's just a precursor to adulthood. Yeah. People got powder in the bag. Huh? So, it's like, man, that processed sugar, that bleached sugar, them people bleach the sugar, you know what I mean? And we loving it. It's messing with our attention span. All that stuff, our attention, ADHD, all that stuff. You know what I mean? We ain't got in my case, ain't no disciplinarian in the house. Ain't no man in the house. Except the man that might come in and out my mama door on the weekend nights, on the late night. You know what I mean? So we ain't getting that type of family structure with a woman or man. I ain't gonna disrespect y'all women, but you know how it was. We ain't got the woman cooking. We ain't got the, you know what I mean? Family structure thing going on. And we ain't getting no food off the stove. Like, it's something that's sacred about someone preparing food out their heart on a stove and sharing it with their family. And that's a higher level than just biological nutrition. That's soul food. You know what I mean? You feeding the soul of a child when, you eat as a family, or food off the stove. And even deeper than that, fresh food off the garden. So yeah, I went from a little athletic build little boy to a little fat little boy because I wasn't being built in nutrition. Like I said before, if I had stayed with my aunt and my uncle, I would have definitely increased in, stature as a man, as a boy, as a little boy, because I would have been getting fed better. Now, you could argue what I have still been a delinquent or all that is. I doubt it, because my aunt used to make me happy. My aunt used to tell me she loved me every day. So, I get an emotional thing about that. But anyway, yeah, it wasn't no nutritional value, man. It's just like, alright. And it goes, even once a child gets to like age 11 or early teens or whatever, it goes down to the birth, or even pre-birth. The nutrition starts with the food that the pregnant mother is consuming. The kind of food that the man who got her pregnant was consuming. Now, I didn't grow up with my father, but I know my mother's eating habits. They weren't that great when I was young. She ended up having health issues because of it. She got better throughout the years, but she had poor eating habits. Very poor. So I don't know about my father, how he ate or eats. I'm not sure about his eating habits. They probably were bad too. You feel me? So, like, it was a blessing that from birth, when I was a little boy, I can remember. I got memories from being 4 years old. I got memories at 5. I remember being on James Island around my great-grandparents' house, my grandparents' house, and, my grandfather's house, and I remember being around these older people, and they would always cook. I would always be eating, food off the stove. Even my snacks wouldn't come out of box. my snack would be like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You know, they wouldn't offer me junk food as a snack. You feel me? They wasn't about to give me no fruit cup, none of that shit. They wasn't giving me no chips. They wasn't giving me no soda. If I wanted a snack, I get some juice, a fruit, peanut butter and jelly sandwich, maybe something out of box, maybe cereal, but it wouldn't be no snack. That might have gave us cereal, and that's another thing. That cow milk, all us need to get off that, man. You know, but it's like one of the. I feel weird talking about my life with this topic, but ain't nothing better to do than get my personal story and incorporate it with this topic, man. And nutrition is so important to young children, man. And this is RBMDRT. I speak it from the point of view of a man, a broken man trying to repair himself, and I'm talking about low black boys. So, I can't speak for the low black girls or the broken black woman. I'm talking from my point of view. So, I know nutrition is very vital for young black boys, man. If I was getting proper nutrition with my single mother when I was living with my moms when I was like 11, 12, and 13 and whatever, I would have never had a lot of the health issues I had as a young boy. I definitely wouldn't have had them if I stayed with my aunt and my uncle, man. And that's I keep getting back to that, and I apologize, but if y'all can get anything from this, just know that, if you got bad eating habits now as an adult, or if you're a young adult, or if you're a young boy, a young kid watching this, just know that your nutrition, the habits that you have with what you eat, is very important. It's important to your mental, your physical, and your spiritual, man. So it's like we gotta be more mindful of our nutrition. But when a lot of us, think about, I know I'm not the only one. I think about my childhood, unresolved childhood issues. I think about the things that made me a broken man. I think about them often. So I ain't the only one. It's somebody who feels just like me right now watching this. So I ain't gonna feel no way about it. It's like, and when you think about what hurt you, what really hurt you as a child, look at what you was eating. And it ain't all about the fact that your parents or your parent may have gave you junk food. Look what you was doing. You was choosing the junk food. Now, in your defense, in my defense, like I said, if you have a house full of fruits, when I was around the older folks, I was eating healthy things, stuff off the land, because I could. So, in your defense, it was around you, it still was your choice. And once you knew better, yeah, you started eating better habits. You gained better eating habits. But it's like, at this point, for me, I got years of bad nutritional habits that I got to make amends for. So, that's what I do, That's what RBMDRT is all about. It's just about self-improvement. It's about knowing you a broken man, and knowing you need repair. 'Cause there's a lot of broken brothers out here in society. If you tell them that, if you ask a group of 100 black men to raise their hands and say they broken, very few of them gonna raise their hand and say they broken. More of them ain't gonna raise their hand. But the ones that do, better off than the ones that, think they ain't broken. Because there's a lot of brothers out here broken who think they alright. They might be more broken than the niggas who even aware they are. But at least the ones that are aware they are got a awareness, and they some of us, I'll include myself, we want to change we want to repair ourselves in more ways than one. And nutrition is a very important aspect of that. But thank you for watching my video. Make sure you like and subscribe. Peace.